Drunkard's Pad quilt block. Basically what you do is just cut the pieces out. You fold this one outward, this one inward. So this one folds out like that. And this one you would fold right sides together and then lay it down and then pin it and sew it. So this is the template. So first, for the Drunkard's Pad quilt block, you get your template. You can purchase one, you can get one, print one offline, and get like a cardstock or cardboard or that little plastic that quilters use to cut templates. You don't necessarily have to run out and purchase template. You can do it for free, just print it offline and uh, you know, use whatever you want to actually make your little template to cut out your pieces. But I plan to do quite a bit with the Drunkard's Pad quilt block, so I just went ahead and bought the template. So this is the template. This is the template. They recommended that I cut a 5-inch square for a finished size of a 4-inch square. So this is the template. I received it in the mail on Saturday. Okay, so so then what I learned is, okay, so once you cut your pieces out, then you end up with this block. Okay, and then I have another, and I ended up with extra because I didn't cut them right. That's what I want to make sure I let you all know that. This is how I ended up with these 2 extra pieces right here. I didn't cut them right, so I said when I do my video, I'm going to make sure that I show them what they need to do to make sure that they end up with their pieces cut properly. So the first thing I'm working on now is a patchwork pot holder. So I've already sewn the pieces together for my patchwork pot holder. So this is what I ended up with once I sewed all my pieces together. And what you have to be careful of with the Drunkard's Pad quilt block, you can't just go and run and cut the pieces out all going in the same direction. You have to take the template and lay it down on the square and rotate it so that your grain is right. So for this square right here, I will cut this template going this way, and then this template going this way. Sorry about that, my little sewing bag fell. So that's what you have to do, and I'm going to get some squares and show you. So first we'll see how we rotate this piece around. So you will lay your square down and cut this way, one this way. And I would recommend working with 4 squares at a time so that you can know how you're going to rotate your template. So then you rotate that one, and then you come, because you want to keep your straight grain going up and down and your crosswise grain going side to side. So then this how you will have to rotate. Okay, then you move this one around and do it this way. So then, if you look at the other template, you would do that one like this. You rotate this one and we'll go around like this. And this one you would just rotate it for the square that you're working on. That's how you would do that one. And then you would do this one like here. So then if we get our square, okay, so let's say for this square right here, okay, we'll put our square down. And I mark the top like that. So this is the square that we're going to look at how to cut. So you're going to take this piece and do that, right? And if you have a rotating quilt mat, you could just, once you lay this down, you could rotate this piece to, you know, see how it's best for you to cut it, for where if you're left-handed, right-handed, you can, hi, how you doing? Thanks for stopping by. You can rotate it so that you can cut it at whichever way is best for you. So for me, if I'm right-handed, then I would just rotate this around and then cut up that way. And I use my big rotary cutter to cut this in. But when you work in this curve right here, you're supposed to have that the smallest rotary cutter that they make. Okay, so I just use this, you know, my big rotator. I think it's a 45 number. And I think the small one, I don't want to lie, but that small rotary cutter, let me get my rotary cutter so that y'all know what I'm talking about. Hold on. Don't go nowhere. Just let me get my 2 rotary cutters. Okay, so I have my rotary cutters. Okay, so y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. So this is what number is that? 45. Okay, this is what I cut my regular squares with. Okay, this rotary cutter is what I would cut this side with. So what I was doing was cutting this side first, this side second. This is a number 45. And this right here is a small one. I don't know why the number isn't on here, but this is what I use to cut this curve. So anytime you're cutting curves and quilting, you're supposed to go with this size ruler. So I would use my rotary cutter to cut just straight enough to where when I went to cut my curve, I wouldn't have to worry about ending up with some pulling over here. So you will cut up far enough, like right above this line, so when you went to cut your curve and you pulled it away, everything would easily pull away. So yeah, this is how I would rotate to cut the square. And today, what we're working with is the Drunkard's path. So this is the square this is the top left hand square for this design for Drunkard path. And then, as you see, for the top left for this piece, then I would take the candy cane print so you see it's down here, right? So then you would place your template down here. Like this. So you won't have to worry about cutting the straight sides. You would just use this ruler, this small rotary cutter, to go around this curve. And don't go fast. I just go, you know, like this all the way around. So then you see how this little curved piece right here goes along with how I positioned it on this print right here. And then you could just rotate this around to cut it in whatever direction you need to cut it so that you're cutting away from yourself. Okay, so that would take care of this top left. Okay, because you want to make sure you're cutting it so that the grain is right. And then for the second, the left hand side, you will have to position your ruler like this, because you want to make sure that your straight grain is going up and down and your crosswise grain is going side to side. Okay, so then this is how you will position the top right side of the Drunkard's pad quilt block. So then if you take your, come and get your square, then you would cut the top right, and this is the top of the fabric. You're gonna cut the top right square like this. So you will position it and then rotate the rotating. If you have a rotating, I guess if you don't have a rotating mat, you have to just do what you do, however you would do it to be cutting away from yourself. So this is how you would lay the rotating, lay the template down on the square for the top right side of the Drunkard's pad quilt block. And see, then me, I would just rotate this mat around, and then, like I said, I use this rotary cutter to cut this and this. And then I use this little small rotary cutter to cut in a curve. Because anytime you cut in curves, you use this small rotary cutter and you go a little bit. And you don't use this for curves. Use this rotary cutter for curves. And then you just go around. Okay. So then this would take care of this. Okay. And then for this here, and like I said, for the Drunkard's pad quilt block, I would work with 4 squares at a time, like for the top row and bottom row. So this is how you would position on the next print for right here, for this curved piece. So if I take my if I bring my candy cane piece back, make sure I got the top in the right place. How you doing? If I got my candy cane piece back, then I would position this right here to go with this right here, if you can picture what I'm trying to show you. So look how that looks right there. And look how the way I put that print, that template on that print goes along with how this curved piece is positioned for the top right hand side of the Drunkard's pad quilt block. Okay, so then, so we've done the left, top left, and the top right. Now we're moving to the bottom right. And when we move to the bottom right, how you doing? Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you all are subscribing, sharing, and all that. So now we at the top right side of the Drunkard's pad quilt block. And this is where you would position your template right here. Like I said, you can't take your fabric and just cut every square in this position, because then if you working with prints, it's not gonna look right. So you have to do it. You have to position your template for whatever way the Drunkard's pad glows in your quilt at that time. So you see how I turned around and did that template, position it like this for the top left hand side of this Drunkard's pad quilt block. So then if we bring my block back, then I will position it like this on this print for here. And I will use this to cut up here just above this straight line, this to go across here. Then I will come with this smaller and go around that curve just slowly, not fast at all. So that takes care of this right here. Now we have to see how we're going to do this one. So then we bring our peppermint print back. And for this, right, you could position it up here like this. And then you would just rotate it around to cut where you're cutting away from yourself. So then you would take this ruler and go around that curve. And then you could bring it back and see how it goes. Like that. Okay, so we've taken care of this one, this block, and this block. Now we're moving over here. So for over here, you bring your solid square back. Well, it's not actually solid, it has these little lines, but you know what I'm saying. And position it down like this. And then you will rotate this mat around to when you go to cut in this curve, you cutting away from yourself. So again, I use this cutter, this 45, to cut this side and that side. And then I take this and go in that curve. And you want to cut just when you go straight, just cut right in front of it and right past that. So when you go in this curve and then you pull this piece away, you pulling everything away, you don't have nothing caught to be tugging and all that. So then this is where we were doing the bottom right. So then for this curved piece right here, when we bring our peppermint print back, okay, you gonna position this template like that. And then you would just make sure you cutting away from yourself. And then that's where you end up with that. So we've done all. So once you do that, what I did was, so these two blocks, two Drunkard's pad quilt blocks together, and you see where I folded my seam that way. Then, so these two Drunkard pads quilt blocks together and folded my seam that way, then nested them together. But when I went to pin, when you fold these, when you get ready to sew these two blocks together and you do it like that, stop, line this, stop, pin from this way out. And then for these two blocks right here, pin from this point all the way down. So then you can line your seams up pretty good and see where it end up uneven up here. I would just cut straight across there. But my main objective is to make sure that my circle looks as much like a circle as possible. It lined up pretty good, I feel, down here, but up here it's just off just a little bit, and that's fine because it still looks pretty good. So now this is the quilt top for my upcoming patchwork pot holder for Christmas. So now I already got this done. All I have to do is to make this into a sandwich and quilt it and then bind it and all that. But like I said, you have to make sure that you're rotating this piece on the square as you go to cut your pieces, like this. You would just rotate this square, position this square to where the top, the straight grain is going up and down and the crosswise grain is going side to side. So that's how you would do that. And then this way you position this piece on the piece for this like this, and then like that, like this, and like this, and then just cut it off and sew it down. And once you get all 4 squares sewn together, then you would just square it up and just sew it onto more Drunkard's Path quilt blocks. But yeah, this is the quilt top for my upcoming patchwork pot holder, Drunkard's Path patchwork pot holder. I was just giving y'all some little tips on how to sew the Drunkard's Path quilt block together, and how to position the template onto the square so that the grains, the straight grain is going up and down and the crosswise grain is going side to side. So you can't see if I did that right there, that's incorrect because this is the straight grain going here. And it's not supposed to be going side to side. It's supposed to be going up and down. That's why I ended up with 2 pieces, and I had to cut 2 additional blocks to make sure that the straight grain is going up and down. Because you can follow these little circles. That's the straight grain. So if you look at this block, you can see that all those little circles on that red print is going up and down, and that's how it's supposed to be. That means the grains are going in the proper direction. If I would have just stayed with how I had ended up doing it the first time, just cutting all the blocks in the same way, you end up with the straight grain going side to side, and that's not acceptable. That's incorrect. So then that's why I had to go and cut 2 additional squares for the prints, because I cut all my blocks going in the same direction, and you can't do that. You have to rotate it around so that the grains are correct, because even though it's the Drunkard's Path, I mean the grains still have to be going in the proper direction. Otherwise, it's not gonna look right. So I'm pretty pleased with how this came out. So far I got a head start on Christmas. I have the quilt top done for my patchwork pot holder. So now all I have to do now is a patchwork placemat, and that's all I'm doing. Those are the only 2 items that I'm doing for Christmas, because you know you don't want to put too much pressure on yourself. So yeah, I'm sure I can get that done by Christmas. Again, this is the Drunkard's Path quilt block. It's several ways to position the Drunkard's Path quilt block, but this is the way I decided to position it for my Christmas patchwork placement. But no, my Christmas patchwork pot holder. This is gonna be a Christmas patchwork pot holder. But my placement for Christmas is gonna be Drunkard's Path again, but it's gonna be another design. So it's several ways to position the Drunkard's Path quilt block. This is just what I'm going for Christmas. Okay. Thank you all for watching. Please make sure you like this video, share my videos, comment. Let me know what you think about this Drunkard's Path quilt block. Subscribe. Yeah, and go and watch some of my other live videos, my other long form videos. I try to do my lives in long form videos and things like that. I like doing my lives because I'm able to give detailed instructions, and I get feedback from in the chat, and it's a more realistic, because I feel like you can't really learn if you're trying to learn quilting in a 3-minute video, 5-minute video. So yeah, again, this is the Drunkard's Path quilt block for my upcoming patchwork pot holder for Christmas. And this is the template again that I use to cut the pieces. So you're going to use a template, whether you decide to buy one or print some offline to use as a guide on maybe cardstock or cardboard, or that plastic that quilters use to cut out templates. So you don't have to go out and purchase a template at all. You can just print some offline and maybe put it on cardstock or somewhere like that and use it for a template, you know. Yeah, but I just got this because this is one of my, I buy templates, and so this is one of my favorite quilt blocks. I had been wanting a Drunkard's Path template for quite a while, so I finally broke down and went on and bought it. So for this, it says this is for finished 4-inch block. So it says cut 4-inch squares, no, 5-inch squares. So I cut, this is what I use to cut my 5-inch squares, and then that's how I came out with these 2 blocks. So I'll just have to keep, cutting more blocks to, make my next project. But yeah, this is my, video for the Drunkard's Path quilt blocks. Like I said, you're going to use your template. You're going to need a template, right? You're going to need this rotary cutter to cut in the curves. You can still use this size rotary cutter to cut this side and this side. But when you, like I said, when you get in this curve, you're going to have to use this smaller rotary cutter. And don't go fast, just, I just do like that. So that, you need this. Anytime you cutting curves in quilting, use this small rotary cutter. Otherwise, you use this one. Or you can get the 25 too, but I got this one. And if you using cutting more than one layer of fabric, you need that 60 number rotary cutter. Well, yeah, I just came and decided to show you all about the Drunkard's Path quilt block. And again, this is the finished quilt top for the patchwork pot holder for Christmas. These are 2 of the pieces, 2 of the blocks, that you'll cut out for the Drunkard's Path quilt block, whichever way that you decide to design it, the way you cut it and sew it together, those directions don't change, And then I cut out 5-inch strips, and then I use this to cut the actual 5-inch blocks. And then I lay the template down on the squares. Okay, and then I ended up with this. So now I gotta do is make this into a sandwich and cut it, you know, and quilt it. Make this into a sandwich, quilt it, bind it, and put the binding strip on. Thanks for watching my video. Check you later. Subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Share, share, share. Comment, comment, comment. Check you later.